Somebody who's seen quite a few of these fights, Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. She's a member of the Democratic leadership, co-chair of Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. By the way, comes from Michigan, obviously a swing state that voted for President Trump. Congresswoman, nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Chuck, Happy New Year to you. Except it's really not a Happy New Year.
Well, I was just going to say, I've said to people, it hasn't really started. It feels like we haven't wrapped up the business of 2018, and in your case, that's literal with this Congress. Let me ask you this. The president taking the national emergency declaration idea off the table, are you relieved or not?
You know, I'm going to tell you, I've been on ground for about 2 hours in Michigan, and the first thing that we did was I've been in regular contact talking to people all week about how this was impacting them. But when you sat with workers who aren't getting their paycheck today and how scared they are when they have the real world discussion of how it's impacting their personal lives and jobs that aren't getting done, you're going to see this happen across the country. I hope to God we see a change next week in attitudes.
All right. Well, let me play something for you from President Trump today. He had a little message for Democrats. Take a listen to it. Let me ask you about it on the other side.
This is where I ask the Democrats to come back to Washington and to vote for money for the wall, the barrier, whatever you want to call it, it's okay with me. They can name it whatever they can name it, peaches. I don't care what they name it, but we need money for that barrier.
All right, so now you can call it peaches, I guess. Let me set that aside for a minute. But it's interesting that you worded this to me before I lifted that soundbite, which is you hope that the calculus changes next week. Are you going to have to give him something for some barrier, do you think, at this point, to just end this thing?
You know what here's what I think. I think the fact of the matter is that before Christmas, the Senate voted 98-2 to fund 6 departments and open the government for several weeks, which is what Lindsey Graham was trying to do before the president shut his down. And I talked to him for 2 hours last night. The House voted to reopen those departments, fund them through the rest of the year, and give us an extension for a few weeks in Homeland Security. We need to stop putting public servants, and they are public servants, in the middle of all this, reopen the government and get back in a regular order and have a discussion and get this done. There isn't anybody I know on either side that doesn't care about national security. We need to reopen the government. It's just simply inexcusable right now.
Here's it seems like you're battling, you've got an issue inside your own party in this respect. Let me play for you something Mazie Hirono, very passionate senator from Hawaii, and what she said about this shutdown. Take a listen.
He is an amoral hostage taker, amoral because he makes no difference between right and wrong, nor does he give a rip. And he's a hostage taker because he has taken 800,000 federal employees and thousands of contractors hostage. And we don't negotiate with amoral hostage takers.
Can you negotiate with him and politically sell that to the more liberal wing of the Democratic Party?
You know, here's what I'm going to say. He has taken hostages. But the fact of the matter is that these are human beings that need to be able to make a mortgage payment, that are worried about their credit rating is going to go, which would impact the catch-22 of the real stories right now is nightmarish. So to me, this is a human issue. I care about every one of those government workers who aren't getting paid, who are scared to death about how they're going to live. And by the way, we should care about the services that aren't getting performed, from keeping us safe in the skies to food being inspected to Social Security complaints to people having housing issues to food stamps. The list is endless. So, yes, he has taken us hostage. And we can't let him do that on the border. Let's get back in a regular order. We all care about national security. Let's negotiate. But we can't. What's happening right now is just not okay.
Okay, except we're dancing around the issue here. On one hand, I know he doesn't deserve to be negotiated with because of what he's done. I understand that argument. On the other hand, you put it in real world terms. If he's amoral, it means he's not going to be moved by any of these arguments. So you may have to just sort of deal with it. Is that what the solution looks like? I think. You sort of give him his 2.6, call it peaches, and move on?
I want to see, first of all, I don't negotiate on numbers ever on radio or television. But
fair enough.
Let me say this. I think that, I know I'm a person that reacts to human stories and I get upset. But I think that my experience, and I wasn't alone, many members of my delegation were
I was just going to say, that makes you a
story.
human being, Congresswoman. There's nothing wrong with that. That's crazy, I know.
But I think a lot of people are going to hear the stories, and they're going to hear both the human side of it, and they're going to really hear the services that aren't being delivered. I'll tell you what, I'm one of 435, there are 100 senators. If people's hearts and souls aren't starting to be touched by this by the end of the weekend, I worry about whether this is really a representative democracy.
It is bizarre to me that there's not even a schedule, anything on the schedule for a meeting for talks. We're just, okay, maybe Monday. Is that what we're looking at? Maybe Monday?
We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen over the week. I'm an optimist. I always like to think.
I know you are.
So I'm going to be an optimist. The other thing is that, I'll tell you at this meeting, this one TSA worker just burst into tears because she had heard, this is what we don't realize. You and I talk and we say all these things. She had just heard that we had all gone home and that nobody was working. Right. And one of the workers said, he said this could go on for years. One, we're not going to let this go on for years. But we do this talk, you and I, we don't realize what it's doing to these real people who are like, get in the room, figure this out, do something. And so we have to do something. So I promised her that we were all on notice that we would fly back within 24 hours. The likelihood, I'm not a BSer either, but I'm hoping that we're going to start to see movement at the beginning of next week.
I assume the missing paycheck is finally the impetus to this, and perhaps this is the one upside of you guys leaving Washington for the weekend is maybe you need to hear these stories in order to be moved to act. Anyway, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, coming to me from your district there, or just outside your district in